Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining the webinar today. We're going to go ahead and get started. Today, we're going to talk about the restaurant game and how to excel and win in this game. We're going to talk about three major topics: labor, margins, and guest frequency. The idea is, how do we drive revenue? How do we up our operational game? And how do we drive guest frequency? A little bit about myself. I've been around the restaurant industry for the past 15 years or so, building technology and working with restaurateurs to help them overcome challenges. I put all of the knowledge that I've learned in the last 15 years into Milagro, and my focus has been strictly about simplifying operation and increasing revenues through guest retention, which seems to be one of the biggest challenges within the restaurant industry. So we're going to cover three major topics today. Of course, we're going to talk about labor. That seems to be a hot topic. Margins and guest loyalty. So it's no longer about great food, great service. I always say restaurant business is very simple. It's not easy. It's simple because it really revolves around two major things: great food, great service. Now, if you add a tad bit of technology to the whole thing, it makes it easier. But those are table stakes now. So great food, great service, those are table stakes. Everybody that comes into the restaurant, that is their expectations. But the challenges that you have as a restaurateur is obviously with labor being expensive or challenging or turnover, a lot of that, which also leads to margin being thin or tight margins in the space. That's one of the challenges that has been around the restaurant industry for a very long time, and we'll drill more into that. And lastly, this concept of guest loyalty and guest retention and what can be done about that. The brands that are absolutely crushing it, they've got all of this under control. They've got the labor in check, which leads to better margins, and then they're accomplishing that through uh, great operation and guest retention. So first thing to talk about is efficiency in labor. I was auditing a very large restaurant chain, and their labor rate was like high 30s, and I was just baffled. It's like, how are they running at like a 38% labor rate? It just doesn't make sense. So today there are a lot of ways to manage your labor and not waste labor, essentially, by overscheduling. So that's the first thing, is just staff better and use some of these new technologies that are out to automatically create your schedules for you. I know a couple of different tools that it looks at your last week, your last year, and it knows your staff's capability, like skill base, and then based off of that, it'll automatically create a schedule. And all you have to do is just have the manager review it for 10 minutes, make any final changes, and then publish that schedule. So this way, you're not overstaffed when you're not expecting a ton of traffic come through, and you're not understaffed when it's Friday at 6 o'clock and you have to turn guests down, or your service time extends because you're understaffed. So using these forecasting real-time AI powered scheduling tools helps a lot. But there's also, on the other side, we worked with a restaurant brand. They saved about an hour and a half every single day by just simply integrating the third-party deliveries into the POS, and they did not have to have a staff just constantly stop what they're doing, walk over to the tablet for Uber, DoorDash, Grubhub, and hit accept, and then spend at least 2-3 minutes typing that order in to the POS. So that is, you don't have to do that. It'll cost you $100 to $120 a month to make that integration. That is money well spent, because now you're not taking a server away from their day-to-day operation, from serving the guest to input a third-party order that came in. So third-party integration I still see quite a few companies, restaurants that are still having 3 or 4 tablets on the counter and they're manually entering those. By the way, don't also forget there's a whole magnitude of mistakes that also happens because they forgot to enter something in. So now that leads to another problem. So that also, again, just one simple integration. Yes, it's going to cost money, but the savings that it adds on the other side is noticeable. Don't forget also that the labor savings, all of that flows to your bottom line. So a simple 5% improvement. So when we went through this financial analysis for this brand, a 5% improvement in the labor efficiency improved the net profit by 20%. So had a huge impact there. Labor, labor efficiency. So again, we talked about that. Reduce overtimes. That's another thing that these AI scheduling tools will be able to do. You could reduce overtime. So by having the AI pick and choose the schedule of the staff, you could eliminate overtime so that you're not spending 1.5x or whatever your current rate is for overtime in order to keep your labor in check. Next thing, labor is always a percentage of your sales. So everybody says, hey, it's 37%, 30%, whatever it is, but it's a percentage of your top line revenue. A good way to also manage your labor and get it under control is controlling your top line revenue. So if you're spending 300,000 a year and you're doing $1 million, if you go to 1,000,001 in top line revenue, your labor can actually remain at 300,000 because to do an extra 100,000 a year, it doesn't require you to hire additional staff. So I've done this math on 150,000 all the time, and if you break it down, it's $416 a day. So in order for you to do an extra $400 a day across a 8-10 hour shift, you don't need to have somebody else. You just need to be more efficient. You could probably, even if you're not efficient, your labor is underutilized and you could just fill the gap by just adding that revenue. And when you do that, now your labor percentage drops, but your cost is the same. So don't forget that your labor is tied directly to your sales. And then obviously, again, shift optimization based on trends, traffic, what kind of traffic, what kind of sales are you expecting based on the time of the day, day of the week, and then adjusting accordingly. And there are great tools that will do that for you now today. This was a case study that we actually did, a couple of years ago, I believe, and we saved a ton of time, which then ended in increased revenues, faster table turns. Why? Because a couple of major shifts. One major shift was the third-party delivery integrations. Again, an hour and a half every day. This was a breakfast restaurant. They were open from 7 to 2, an hour and a half of savings every day. Why? Because they didn't have to type that order in. It just came in. They had to accept it, and then the order would go to the kitchen. A few months later, we even automated that so that the order came in and it automatically fired to the kitchen. So now they don't even pay attention to it. The order comes in, makes a ding, gets fired to the kitchen, and it's all done. So no more wasting time doing that. The second thing was through the handheld terminals that the servers had. So let's kind of run through that. Prior to us going in there, a server would go to the table. My name is XYZ. What can I get you? Write the order down. Walk over to the bar, which was the closest terminal, and they would enter the order in. Then go about their thing, deliver the food, and the customer says, hey, I want to pay for my bill. Walk back to the bar, print the bill, walk back to the guest, drop the check off. Walk away, come back in a few minutes later, pick up the tab, go to the bar, pay for it, drop it off, and then go back to the terminal to adjust the tip. So much time wasted just by doing that. And it frustrates the servers, the staff, because they're running around like crazy because they're like, hey, I don't have enough time. Like I can't service all my tables. When we went in, we gave each server a handheld. The handheld had credit card reader obviously built into it, so they walk up to the table. Now today, they take the order, they enter it into the tablet, fires to the kitchen. And if they're walking by and then some table says, "Hey, I'd like to pay for my check," great, it's 25 bucks. And they just take the card, put it into their credit card reader, hand the tablet to the customer. The customer will choose their tip, sign. If they want to get a receipt, they can get it via text, email, or they can even still have it printed. But all of that back and forth is completely eliminated. So again, a lot of ways to look at where the labor is getting wasted and then just reallocate that to be more efficient so you can have faster table turnovers and be able to make more money just by making these simple changes. Second part is about margins. In the restaurant, obviously your prime costs are your two biggest costs. So your food costs, your labor costs, those are two big numbers. Anything you do on that, if you turn those two knobs, it will have a major impact on your bottom line. And paying attention to those is critical. So reviewing your labor costs on a regular basis, reviewing your food costs, that's going to have another major impact on your bottom line. A lot of things also revolves around menu. So your food cost is controlled through your waste. That's one of your biggest challenges, is how do you not run out of food, but at the same token, not have a ton of waste. So reviewing your menu on a quarterly basis minimum will allow you to make those decisions. And by the way, just look at the data, pull the reports, look at your PMix report, and figure out what's selling, what's not selling, how much have you sold, and what your costs are related to that item, and see if it makes financial sense to keep it or just get rid of it. And if it's somewhat like people do try it and you don't want to get rid of it, just make it into an LTO. Bring it back in every so often, like the McRib sandwich at McDonald's. Bring it back in to build a little bit more hype around that specific menu item if you really tie to it. And then the last things, it's clearly obvious that the more money you make on a top line, the more margins you're going to have. So focus on ways to drive revenue. The way to drive revenue, the easiest way in a restaurant, is to drive that revenue through guest retention. You already have a customer, they're already coming in, they've tried your food. Hopefully they're already happy with what your food quality, your service, etc. Nudge them a little bit to come back in more often. I've said this from early 2020, where we ran across an article that said, a study, not article, that said 70% of the guests that go into the restaurant don't go back. Why not? It's not because they didn't like the food. It's not because they didn't like the service. They just kind of forgot about it. They went in and no reminders, no proactive communication with that guest to get them to come back in. So touch base already on this: more revenue, more profit. So the more money you have funneling from the top, the more money will be left at the bottom. Dynamic pricing is, I don't know, maybe dead already by now, but think of it like happy hour pricing. So you can't increase your pricing, of course. I don't think in the restaurants that concept will go well. However, it's not like airlines or hotels where you get to like the if you go in last minute, you pay the most premium. But you could do happy hour pricing. Adjust your pricing based on the day part seasonality. I think restaurants do a great job of that to drive traffic in during their slow times, when they already have the labor there, they already have the facility, everything's already there. What's missing is the guest. So using the happy hour pricing, or if you want to call it dynamic pricing, to drive that traffic is great. Just make sure you communicate it with your guests so that they know. Everybody around you should know that, hey, prices are lower. We have happy hour during these times, these days, and these times. Your servers are your salespeople, so make no mistake about that. And some of these things could be very easy. Instead of walking up to the table, what can I get you to drink? Just make two recommendations, and usually people will pick one. Can I get you a Coke or iced tea? Instead of what can I get you to drink? Just having small changes like that can make a huge impact because you know that that drink is one of your most profitable items on that menu. It may cost you 10, 15, 20, 50 cents, but you're selling it for $3 to $4. That is where you make a ton of net profit. So train your staff to not just say, what can I get you to drink? For example, hey, can I get you a tea or Coke or Pepsi or whatever it is? In terms of promotions, to drive check values, it's everybody is focusing on how do I increase my average check size. Obviously promotions are a big deal, but focus on visuals. Like I'm a pretty big visual eater myself. When I look at something, if it's like red or if it looks good, then I'm like, hey, I want that. Just I don't know what it is, but just give me that. So use that to your advantage. There's a reason that when you go to like the steakhouses, they when somebody orders a dessert, or they're trying to show you what kind of dessert you want, they'll bring the whole freaking tray out. And I think I was reading it, actually I have the book Unreasonable Hospitality, and he was saying we just rolled the cart and brought all the desserts out, and we actually lowered it down to table height so everybody could see it. And just simply by doing that, the revenues for desserts went up because people saw it. It's like, hey, we got to save room. That chocolate cake just absolutely looked amazing. So use those to your advantage in order to increase your average check size. And then, of course, guest frequency, nothing beats that. If you can get somebody to buy an extra dessert, great. They spend an extra $10. But if you get them to come back in, they spent an extra 40, $50 for an additional visit. So check sizes, great. Do whatever you can. Use these small tactics to get the guests to order a little bit more, try new items. But frequency is the name of the game. And the way you drive frequency, by the way, is through communication. So personalizing campaigns, messaging, asking for feedback, doing reminders to ensure that the guest knows that you still exist, and then enticing them to come back in. Initially, I strongly recommend doing it through offer. So I've shared this playbook several times where on their first visit that they come in, they get a feedback. Sometime after that, they get a buy one get one free. They get a free dessert on the so they get a buy one get one free that drives them in for a second visit. And then on the second visit, you give them a free dessert or appetizer that drives them in for a third visit. And then on a third visit, give them like a free drink or something similar to drive them in for a fourth visit. Because every visit that every time that they come back and every visit, will lower your customer acquisition costs. Your CAC costs will go down drastically because now you spend $25 to get a customer to come in or a guest to come in, and now that's broken down across 4 visits, not one. Some of the things that has highest impact. Pictures on food. So again, I'm a big picture person myself. So to me that resonates, and that's actually one of the first products that we built within Milagro platform. I had a personal experience where I was in China and they gave me a menu that was PDF and it was all in Mandarin, and I'm like, there's no way I know what I'm gonna order. And I asked the lady and I said, hey, can I see like pictures of this? And she said, scan the QR code on the table. I scanned the QR code, and voila, it was a PDF all in Mandarin on my browser on my phone. And it's like all you had to do is just add some pictures and give an option to, for example, translate if you knew you're going to get foreigners coming through. But for you, just get pictures and get social media worthy pictures, because pictures sell. Again, that dessert example that I gave where they roll the cart, they're doing that because they want you to see what it looks like so that you would order it. Adding 3PD, if you're not on third party, like the first thing you have to do is just go get at it. Yes, it's expensive. Everybody's challenge with these 3PD things is it's expensive, but consider it somewhat of a marketing, somewhat of a whatever you want to call it, but bucket it into like marketing expense if you have to, because if you're not on there, if you don't meet the guests where they are, you're not going to get them. So the difference is, do I go on third party, pay 30%, get more customers, add more top line revenue, and perhaps I get more guests because they ordered online, now they come and visit, etc. Or do I just want to completely eliminate that channel and not gain any exposure, not gain any revenue through these third-party apps? Get on Uber, like Uber and DoorDash is absolutely critical, but go to your local ones, because sometimes you may have Postmates or grandma's third-party delivery ordering app. Get on there, because it builds brand awareness, and it also adds to your revenue, although at an expense. But that should be treated as cherry on top. You shouldn't build a business specifically around those third parties, because again, it is fairly expensive. And then marketing automation. So a lot of people don't do that. A lot of restaurants don't do that. They try to focus on all these fancy things. Forget all the fancy stuff. Just get to the basics. Do the basics that nobody else is doing, because if your competitors are not doing that and you are, you win. And they're usually not very complicated. Set up a few basic campaigns. Like, in my opinion, the first and foremost important is the feedback, because you could use the feedback internally, figure out if they had a good or bad experience, push all the good experiences to share that experience on Google, Yelp, to drive more 5-star reviews, and then the negative ones to escalate it to the manager so you can win those guests back. After that, get on a first time visitor campaign. That first time visitor campaign is a major problem. You know that 70% of those guys aren't going to come back. Make the first offer just absolutely so good that they can't refuse it. Give them a buy one get one free, or give them a gift card. Do something that they're like, hey, I have to go back because I've got $20 in rewards that I need to redeem. So that alone is going to be a big change. And then set up, if you want to get a little bit more advanced, set up like a we miss you campaign. So if you don't see somebody for a certain period of time, send them a quick reminder. Hey, notice that you haven't been in the last X number of days. Here's an offer to come in. Or did you know that by the way, you don't always have to do promos or discounting, but promos do have their place. But what you could do is say, hey, we've introduced this new LTO on the menu. If you try this out, like next time you come in, try it. And by the way, it's on the house. Just come in, ask for myself. I'm the manager. I'll comp it for you. Next thing is focusing on loyal guests. This is where I play a lot in every day with restaurants, trying to figure out what is the acquisition versus the retention strategy. Everybody knows that getting a guest to come in, it's expensive, and that's across the board. Even for us as a software company, our biggest challenge today right now is getting in front of you. That's why we do these webinars. That's why we post on LinkedIn. That's why we do all these things to increase brand awareness. Again, also going back for restaurants on 3PD, I feel like the acquisition in restaurants is a little bit easier because it's kind of laid out. You got to be on Google Maps. You got to be on like Yelp. You got to be on all these marketplaces. So go out to, like, I'll call out Marquee. Like, just sign up for Marquee, pay whatever the $100 that it may be, so that you get listed everywhere on all the places online, and you don't have to spend a ton of time doing that. Now that gives you brand awareness. Get on third-party apps. Now that gives you awareness. People that order through DoorDash, Uber, etc., they'll find you through those apps. And by the way, don't forget, amazing pictures. You want to stand out. You don't want to get lost among the crowd. So it's kind of laid out. For us, it's a little bit more complicated to get in front of a new prospect and give them our pitch, but it is expensive. We spend a ton of money. I'm sure you guys spend a ton of money on guest acquisition and driving people in the door. So don't just let it be a one-time visitor and lose 70% of those guests. Do something to get them to come back in. And if you don't have the technology that enables you to do that, just ask a simple question maybe up front, or have your servers, when they go in, hey, is this your first time in here? Great. Okay, now you know, give them a little print, a series of business cards. Hey, buy one, get one free next time you come in. Here's a coupon. Just do it manually. Do it until it becomes such a big pain that you can't do it manually anymore, which is a great problem to have because you've scaled, and then go out and buy the technology that enables you to do that. I really believe in that so much so that we built it into a series of our apps. Like in our waitlist reservation, in our smart POS, we built that functionality already in that it automatically triggers those because we believe they are so critical and important to the profitability of the restaurant. And then loyalty, again, don't treat it, it is an experience, don't treat it like points. I think, I don't know about the app side of things and this loyalty, but loyalty only treats a subset of your customers. And most restaurants are trying to implement a loyalty app because they want to learn more about the guest behavior so they could use that information to market to them. So, but don't create a friction for the guests that they have to, don't force them to download an app, or don't force them to log in order to order online. I was trying to order a pizza the other day and they forced me to create an account online, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm just not going to remember this. X'd out, moved on. And in this case I actually called them and ordered it, but if they hadn't answered the phone, I would have just moved on to another place and ordered it that way. But again, adding these friction points just doesn't make sense. And then personalized marketing, just use that to drive traffic. If it's a special occasion for Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, these things, plan it in advance, schedule it, forget about it. Let the technology do the work. Those automations can be done. Figure it out, and if you can't figure it out, tap on someone's shoulder that has done that before, or demand from your existing tech providers that, hey, I need this to be done automatically because I don't have the time. I just want it to be on autopilot. Demand for them to get those things done for you. And I think that's also, by the way, another difference between us and some of our competitors. We pre-configure all of these things, so it's a one option, on, off. Do you want this first time visitor campaign? Yes or no, on or off. That's it. Do you want this feedback? On, off. There's nothing to configure. It's not super convoluted and complicated. It doesn't take you 16 clicks to just get to it, and takes you another 2 hours to deploy it. So push your technology companies to make it that easy. That yes or no, yes, great, done, moved on, and it's already done. It's working. It's in works. And by the way, like 5% increase in guest retention can increase your profits by 60%. So we've talked a little bit about that, because when you increase top line revenue, none of your other metrics change except your food cost. You're selling more food. Your labor is not going to change. Your rent's not going to change. Your technology fee is not going to change. Your electric bill, none of your expenses will change except your food cost. So when you increase your top line revenue, 60-70% of that flows down to your net profit. Another thing we talked about, how to build experiences. I'm always frustrated by some of these basic things that are not done as a guest. So when I go into a restaurant and I spend more money than the average customer, and I'm there more often, I tip more, etc. When I walk in during a busy time in the restaurant, I don't want to wait 45 minutes in line. So the hostess should know that they have the ability to look that information up, or they have to be able to do that in order to bump me to the top of the list and say, Hamed, we've got a 45-minute wait, but considering you're a VIP customer, now I've acknowledged that, made that guest feel super important. I'm gonna go ahead and bump you to the top of the list. Give me 5 minutes, we'll have your table ready. And by the way, I know you have a whatever peanut allergy. I don't, but if I did, I'm gonna let the chef know. So that information passes on. And then pushing it beyond that, Hamed is seated on table 45. When the servers walking by and they look at their handheld, table 45, oh, that's Hamed. Walk up, be like, hey, Hamed, welcome back in. that experience completely changes because, wow, you know my name, or you must have recognized me, right? Those are the things that the guests want, and these things are small things but make a huge impact. That's why every time you go to Starbucks, they ask for your name and they call you by your name. In fact, I just recently joined their rewards program, and I don't even have to give them my name anymore. Now they know when I scan it, they already know. It's like, hey, Hamed, your order is ready, and it's like, oh, thanks, right? So focus on these little things that you can enable your frontline workers. You can give them the right technology, the right tool in order to pull that off. Feedback loops, those are absolutely critical. We've also built this in our system because we believe it's so critical to the success of a restaurant in such a crowded marketplace that you just simply have to do that. Guest lives an hour later, they get a text message. Hey, John, this is Hamed. I'm the GM at Hamed's Burger Joint. Just want to check in and make sure everything was okay. If you don't mind, give me a 1 through 5 star rating. And then you take it from there, right? The automation kicks in. You don't have to do that. By the way, that messaging, all of that is automated, but it feels like it's coming from the GM at the location. And if they give you a 1, 2, 3, then it'll be like, hey, sorry we missed it. Somebody will be in touch. That gets escalated, win them back. If it's 4 or 5 stars, goes to Google, sends them a follow-up message. Hey, we're a small business. We would greatly appreciate it if you could leave us a 5 star review on Google or Yelp. Here's the link. You click on it, 5 stars, had an amazing experience, submit, and here's yet another 5 star reviews, 5 star review that makes acquisition better. If you're 3.9 versus 4.0, it's going to have a huge difference. And I think Google had published something that, and by the way, Google does deprioritize those with lower ratings. So if you have a low rating, they're going to prioritize showing everybody that has higher rating. So that makes your acquisition cost of a new guest that much more expensive. And then lastly, if you have all these technology tools at your headquarters and your hostess and your server doesn't have access to that data, enough said. All right, so growth. Again, restaurant business is simple, but it's not easy to execute. You have to execute day in, day out, every time. Great food, great service. You just can't miss it. But it's simple because, again, it revolves around these basic concepts: great food, great service, and then you drive frequency of guests. That is where the huge upside is, which leads to higher sales, higher profit, and that solves a lot of problems. It solves your labor problem. Why? Because now you're bringing more guests in, more frequency equals more money spent, which means 15% more tips that goes to the staff. So that helps you offset your labor cost, helps you be able to give your staff a PTO so that they don't have to, they can take some time off, or they don't have to work 2 jobs just to make ends meet. When you have more money, more profit, a lot of problems go away in a business. That is all we had for today. So we're a little bit over time, but we are going to be hosting a similar session at FS Tech. We're going to have Leon from Dave's Hot Chicken. He's going to share some of the experiences that they've done and how they've crushed it in the Dave's side of business. And then we're going to have Rev, also the CMO of Salad House, and he's going to share a series of amazing tactics. He's always tactical. What can I teach you today that you can take home, that you can implement at your restaurant and be better? So we will see everybody at FS Tech. If you're going to be there, don't forget to come into that session for the success playbook that will drill down in more details about this. That's going to be in September 14th through 16th in Kissimmee, Florida. Thanks everyone for joining today's webinar.